Speaking of Friday night, did you hear about the Rampage on the other channel?
I did hear about it. I heard from some people who were there. The Wrestling News' Brian Solomon, I believe, was there, and I read some reviews on different message boards and different groups from people. I've seen a lot about this show, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they finally got a rating they deserve, because this had to be one of the worst live television wrestling programs I've ever seen in my life, and they've got to do something, certainly. Certainly. Because they're down to, what, 375,000? The ratings of Rampage on TBS are lower than our podcast. For fuck's sake. And did you see any of it? I just real briefly, I want to tell you what they foisted off on the population, and this has got to be a topic of conversation at this point. In AEW, they've got an hour of national cable television on a Friday night, and they're doing absolutely nothing with it. And now I understand they're trying to run live rampages where they tape in front of these people, and they did this at the Mohegan Sun Casino. All they taped was their YouTube shit and then this program. And not only expected people that paid to sit through it all, but to be happy about it. And they've got to, even if they want to run these people off at the live event, this was a time slot that was given them by Warner Media or whoever was in charge at that point, because they changed from TNT to TBS. And so this was a gift time slot, and they're programming it like they don't want people to watch. Literally, they could put an infomercial on or a rerun of a program they already pay for and do better numbers than this. So, anyway, do you know what a world title eliminator match is, Brian?
I'm not going to make any jokes or anything. I was wondering this after Dynamite, because they announced a world title eliminator match coming up for Moxley. But I was confused. Is it Moxley against people that he eliminates, or is it people who have to eliminate each other to get the Moxley?
No, it's a non-title match. And if they win, they beat Moxley, they get a title match. So it's a non-title match.
But what's the eliminator part?
Well, if they don't win, they don't get a title match. But he's wrestling a guy that would have never got a fucking title match anyway. Moxley versus Daddy Mac Daddy.
That's overly complicated.
And 5 seconds after the start of the match, they were on the floor and Moxley was throwing fake punches. And they were out there about 2 minutes at least. So anyway, Moxley won that. And then here comes Stokely with Lee Moriarty, who still has green hair. And I've never seen this before. I want to paint this picture for you. Moxley standing in the ring. Stokely and Moriarty come down the fucking ramp, right? Stokely starts cutting a promo on how good Moriarty is. And then said, but never, I'll let him tell you. And the guy's standing right there, right? And they go to the big screen where it's a fucking video of the guy that's standing there next to Stokely cutting a promo on Moxley. Did you understand what I just said?
Not exactly. So he was in the ring with Lee Moriarty and then...
No. Moriarty and Stokely are in the entranceway. Moxley's in the ring.
Okay.
Stokely cuts a promo on Moxley.
Right.
And then Stokely hands it over to Moriarty and they pitch to a video so that Moriarty is standing there in the entranceway, but there's a video of him on the screen cutting a promo on Moxley.
The fuck is that?
I don't know. So then the next match was Keith Lee against Serpentico. And there was charitably a 225-pound weight difference. And Serpentico looked like a kid in a generic wrestling lucha costume. And the match was a powerbomb 1, 2, 3. I mean, it was the right result, but my God, why would you book that?
In general, what do you think of the idea of having so many guys who are pretty defined in the tag team division, whether it's Dax Harwood or whether it's Keith Lee here, based on recent activity, having them have so many singles matches. Should they just be in tag matches?
Yes, until they get over as a team, yes. And I know some people, so FTR aren't over. No, they are over because the fans decided they were good, but the booking in AEW has never gotten them over or put them over. They had the same thing as everybody else. Keith Lee gets singles matches because he's a big guy, so he can beat a little tiny guy in 10 seconds. Dax Harwood is potentially the best in-ring worker of any type or sex or occupation or whatever in the company, so he gets long singles matches where he puts everybody over because he makes everybody else look better. So neither one is smart, but it does more for the team for one of them to bash a fucking guy in 10 seconds than it does for the other guy to be losing to everybody. But no, until you actually get somebody over with a series of wins or more wins than losses on television in the primary role you want them to be in, whether it be a single or a tag team or a heel or a babyface or whatever, you don't go breaking tag teams up and having them do singles matches, much less lose singles matches before they've established any kind of credibility as a team. And it doesn't make any sense. When's the last time we saw Lee and Swerve in the same place? I think once out of the last 3 or 4 weeks, much less wrestling together.
Right,
so anyway.
If you have Serpentico there, why not tag him up with another one of the job guys and have them lose to those two in 30 seconds? Just give them a win.
It might make sense. And anyway, and then there's the whole issue of booking Serpentico or Burking Serpentico.
Didn't we read he's an agent now?
No, I think that was another Angelico.
No, it was him. It was the one who used to tag with Luther. Because Luther's an agent.
Okay, well, point is, another joke friend wrestler wannabe got a job. So then afterwards, Tony Schiavone's going to do an interview with Keith Lee. And of course, Keith Lee does not get a chance to say a word before the Acclaimed music interrupts. And the people pop and they cheer. And as soon as Caster comes out, he says, "You ain't going to get a rap tonight." And the crowd starts booing. And the Acclaimed have to tell this story in public. These two kids who have gotten over tremendously with the audience and the whole thing with Billy Gunn and Scissor Me Daddy Ass, the whole 9 yards. Again, they're not the second coming of Steamboat and Youngblood in the ring, but they're green and they'll learn and they're over. So the first thing you need to do is put them in stupid shit that nobody believes and everybody laughs at, and diminish all of their popularity because the fans are going, well, now they're just fucking morons too. They have to tell the story that Billy Gunn is missing and they don't know where he is. And Tony Schiavone says that, well, we heard that Billy had a family emergency. Well, seems like his adopted sons would know that before Tony Schiavone, who he needs to get a haircut and drop the earring or go ahead and admit that he's a 65-year-old fucking hippie who used to live in a tent in the Haight-Ashbury district. But anyway, as soon as Tony says that, Swerve pops up on the screen. Because we were wondering where old Swerve was. Well, he is in a dark room with Billy Gunn, kidnapped, tied up, taken away, and held for ransom. He's tied to a chair, and now, again, Billy Gunn, more popular than he's been in 20 years, maybe ever. And they're going to do this to him and get people laughing at him instead of with him and getting people rolling their eyes at this whole thing on a show that the only saving grace now is nobody's watching it. Maybe the folks on Wednesday night won't have heard about this. So then Billy and Swerve start talking to each other, even though Billy's tied up with his hands behind him, tied to the chair. He's like, well, you ain't going to get away with this. Oh, yes, I am. Stuff like that. And then finally, Swerve shows Billy a pair of pliers, walks behind him, and reaches down. And at first I thought he was going to go for the nuts, but instead he went for obviously one of the fingers, but you can't see. But Billy starts screaming. So now they're expecting the people to believe that Swerve is cutting off one of Billy Gunn's fingers with a pair of pliers, and Billy's going along with it. And he's being obviously fake and selling for this guy in this bad skit. And this is the way that you kill talent off that the fans have decided they like for themselves, by making them so stupid and nonsensical that you can't like them anymore. And of course, then the Acclaimed jump out of the ring at that point and run to the back. Where are they going?
Where? Yeah.
Apparently they don't know where the fuck Billy is, because that's what they said 5 minutes ago. And then Keith Lee's standing there in the ring, and he makes the conflicted face, like, am I with my partner taking this guy's fingers off with a pair of pliers, or am I not? This was some hot fucking garbage.
I didn't see this, but I'm listening to you, and I've heard some other people talk about it. I didn't realize all the details, to be honest. The Acclaimed are going to have a rare distinction of being an AEW act that AEW perfectly captured the momentum briefly, and AEW, just like everyone else, they're starting to blow the momentum.
Well, and that's what they're not going to be different than anything else. Wardlow had momentum. FTR had momentum. Hobbs and Starks, one or the other at one time or another, had a little momentum. And there you go. And did the Acclaimed say anything good about CM Punk? Because that's what everybody else had in common, was they praised Punk. And they got their nuts cut off. Well, the Acclaimed probably weren't praising Punk, or elsewise he would have cut Billy's nuts off instead of his finger. So then on this program, Madison Rayne worked with Ty Meloconti. And boy, howdy, if I sat down and went through it, it was a wrestling school girls practice match with no leader. Between the stop and start, herky-jerky, weak throws, strikes, uncertainty, blah, 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 misapprehension. Good Lord, this didn't do anybody any favors, including the company and the viewers that they aired this. But it was live, so they couldn't fix it for once.
If the answer's not allowed to be fire them, how do you teach a smaller woman to run the ropes? Because if they're under the rope, obviously everything's a little different than it would be with a guy, but it seems like that's a lot of the problem with a lot of the women. I'm not even speaking about anyone specifically in this match, but just the running of the ropes, the things that for years seemed like the simplest of tasks for wrestlers. It's those things that usually seem like they're the hardest.
Your question was, how do you teach it? And the answer is, sometimes you can't. If someone is so small and tiny and has not enough body weight and can't propel themselves, I mean, again, cheerleading or gymnastics or, whatever the small girls, Olga Corbett was 90 pounds. She got a perfect 10 in the fucking uneven parallel bars or whatever. That's goddamn art. That's a talent. That's a sport. That's an art, whatever. But it doesn't translate to professional wrestling. And I joked about Riho. Her name is Riho, and she don't weigh 90 pounds. And when she hits the mat, well, it barely makes a sound. 'Cause it don't. 'Cause it's ridiculous. And sometimes, Shawn Michaels used to tell the guys when he was working out with guys in the ring, and especially in that ring up there where they've always used the real ropes instead of cables, he would say, attack the mat on your bumps. Don't just fall, attack the mat. And if you're going to hit the ropes, hit the fucking ropes. Attack the ropes. And that's how they'd get. If you watch Michaels and Hart or anybody that was really smooth and in that time period hitting the ropes, they would charge into those things, and they had the fluid turn, and those ropes would stretch out much farther than cables do. and they would get spring coming off of them. And even in the 20-foot ring, 3 steps, and you're across the ring and turn, 3 steps and turn, 3 steps and turn. It was a thing of beauty. And it's like these fucking kids are just tiptoeing up to the things and turning like they're going to hit a concrete wall. So the answer is to how do you teach anything in wrestling is you can teach it. Whether they can do it or not is up in the air.
Because it's not like you're seeing any women's wrestlers I shouldn't say any, but most of the women who get on AEW the last few years who are brand new, an Anna Jay or a Ty Mello or a Jade to an extent, but a lot of them, it's just a lot of running. Like, it's not like collar and elbow, work a move. I mean, I'm not saying they should work exactly like Harley Race in 1980 for anyone who thinks.
But just running back and forth.
Just
and now
turning on your person, weird.
Well, here's another couple things that the kids these days have picked up on. Is not only will they do the lucha thing where a guy will just take off running right past his opponent and the opponent will kind of do the motion with his hand on past like I'm forcing you past me. And it's like they're going into a tumbling routine, which they then do. But that's a lucha thing that they've been doing in Mexico for years. But if you had pulled that in this country until recently, as you ran by your opponent 2 or 3 feet away without even acknowledging him, he would have just knocked the fuck out of you. And then there's the other thing. I started calling guys on this in Ring of Honor about 10 or 12 years ago, and now it's a lot worse. You'll be faced off with a guy, standing there squared off, looking at him, whatever, and suddenly they will one guy will turn his back to the guy and look at the ropes behind him and then take off and run. But meanwhile, he's literally turned his back 180 degrees on a guy that's standing 2 feet behind him. And I mean, what the fuck are you doing? The only time I've ever seen that make any sense was when the guy turned before he took off running. The guy that he turned his back on grabbed a handful of his hair and just jerked him right backwards off his feet onto the fucking mat. That's what you would do, or just rabbit punch the guy in the base of his skull. But it's insane. And so that's why there's all the hooping and hollering, and they ought to be playing the saber dance. But
it's like when we saw Serena Deeb pop up. And look, Serena Deeb, there are some issues with charisma and character that would prevent her from getting to a top level, quite frankly, I think. But in terms of in-ring ability... As a technician, she's fantastic. She stands out, I think, partly because no one else... There's so many other women just running.
She stands out because she's the only one of those girls that was ever trained by Rip Rogers. That's why she actually knows how to wrestle. That's the end of that.
Well, that was the end of that. We'll talk, I'm sure.
Well, no, but that wasn't the end of the show.
Oh.
There's more to the show, because you're not going to believe this, ladies and gentlemen. They've actually signed new talent in AEW that we actually want to see. And they have already set about beating them, so we don't want to see them anymore. The main event was Wardlow against Matt Taven. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett and Maria, they popped up a week ago or whatever. They've been signed apparently for AEW, not even just Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I did see that. So let's give him a chance.
So that's what I thought. And he's going to bring them on TV and beat all of them. First time we see him. Like he does with everybody. The fucking lunatic that Tony is. The main event was that they did some kind of angle either on fucking YouTube or Dark or last week on Rampage or whatever. But again, Matt Taven is very, very good. And I think very talented, and in this field could be used along with Mike Bennett as a top-level fucking guy. They can both work circles around some of these self-trained fucking imbeciles, but they can hang with the legitimate pros there are on the roster in AEW, what there are of them. They're both very good. So, they've been here a week, so he brings Taven in and beats him. Not only does he beat him, But also to make sure that Wardlow doesn't get over anymore, they have a really competitive match, and then Wardlow beats him. So now that's done neither guy any good, because Taven is a nobody who's had no wins in this environment, but he comes in and goes 15 minutes with Wardlow before Wardlow beats him flat with 4 power bombs and a foot on his fucking chest. So Taven's now useless as a talent to the company. We've been now indoctrinated that Matt Taven's a guy that comes in and gets the shit kicked out of him and fucking beat flat in the middle. But then, like the heels always do in this company, Bennett attacks him from behind, and they start trying to get some heat on Wardlow. So here comes Samoa Joe, Wardlow's weird tag team partner for no reason. He does the run-in to save his partner, carrying whatever championship belt he holds here. I can't remember. And then he beats up both of the heels.
Ring of Honor TV champion, I believe.
Okay, well, he beats up both Bennett and Taven and shit cans them both out of the fucking ring. So, actually, Bennett and Taven in a tag team program with FTR would probably be the best tag team matches we could get in today's environment without employing Mark and Jay Briscoe. But they just got brought in to do a job and then get the shit kicked out of them and shit canned out of the ring. But nevertheless, he shit cans those good heels. Here comes Powerhouse Hobbs, music and entrance. Okay. What the fuck? What does he have to do with anything here? But as he's coming down the ramp, a million other heels jump in the goddamn ring from behind. It's the Ring of Honor heel crew with the Gates of Agony, the Fat Samoans, and whoever the fuck else is involved. And I get now Hobbs is going to be stuck in that. And the DVR froze because they were about 30 seconds from going off the air, but there's 18 people in the ring, and we still don't really know who all of them are. And thanks for coming, Bennett and Taven. And Maria didn't get to do shit except jumped up on the apron one time. Glory, hallelujah. What is he doing? If you don't have room to use these guys now, then don't bring them in and just ruin their careers. Just destroy them on national television. Wait 6 months until some more of these goddamn self-trained, entitled, nepotism fucking victims that got their jobs because who their friends are, self-destruct and get in a fight. You got to get rid of them. And then bring the good talent in and use them. I swear to God right now, if he had the opportunity to sign John Cena, Tony Khan I'm talking about, and he already had Wednesday night's TV written, he would sign John Cena and put him in a fucking dark match on YouTube because he just didn't have room.
I don't think that's fair. I think he would debut John Cena at a Great Affair on a Wednesday live. It'll be a big rating. And then I think the second week, John Cena would come out and get a big pop and not really do much. And by the third week, he would just be fitting in with the rest of them up there. You know, I've said it to you that Ring of Honor is being jammed down everyone's throat. A lot of it is he's building up this Ring of Honor pay-per-view, although, I mean, Jericho's the Ring of Honor champion. You got to figure he's going to be on the pay-per-view. He's all over this show. FTR are the tag champions. They're sometimes on the show. Samoa Joe's the champion. But still, there's other guys, I guess. Based on the way Tony books stuff, I hate the fact that I'm guessing they formed this out-of-nowhere friendship, relationship, war Joe of Wardlow and Samoa Joe just so one of them could turn on the other and have matches. Because all of a sudden they're buddies and all of a sudden they're involved in this? I don't know. I might have the booking of Wardlow. You almost have to start over. And Ring of Honor. I mean, what the fuck's Ring of Honor? They're building up a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. The only reason anyone's going to buy it is because you're talking about it on AEW TV. It's an AEW pay-per-view. Under the name Ring of Honor with some other wrestlers too. That was a masterclass in wrestling booking, some would say. Not many, but there's one or two people I can think of who may say that.
And they all live in Campbell by the Sea.
Was it a master work of wrestling? And that's an awful transition. They write such wonderful copy. But Masterworks, Jim, a wonderful opportunity for the listeners to make an investment that makes sense.
Well, thankfully, you've managed to save that right at the last. Something that makes sense. We haven't been talking about that. We've been talking about AEW, but now we're going to talk about what makes sense for you. That's making money. Because making money makes a lot of sense because those dollars, well, they make a lot of sense. Anyway, now that I've made no sense, folks, the folks at Masterworks are sweetening the deal up just a little bit here on the program. If you sign up with our link, which I will tell you in just a minute, you're going to learn how you can get up to $200 in free shares. Free and $200. Those things don't often go together, but today they do because we're going to make you some money. Now, you say you want to buy some fine art. Tell you what I'm going to do. Right here under my raincoat, I have the most amazing Monet and Van Gogh.
Well, that
you can ever be a party to, and I'm going to sell it to you on the corner of the street right here, right out from under my raincoat. Now, that's a situation that we've all found ourselves in from time to time, where you're standing on a corner waiting for the light to change, and somebody comes up and tries to sell you a Renaissance painting from one of the great masters right out from under their raincoat. When's the last time that happened? You up in New York, what, couple times a week?
Well, not exactly, but that kind of happened to me on Park Avenue and 55th, like in 2005.
See, that's what I'm telling you.
It really did.
Well, you can't trust a lot of these
in front
people.
of the Chase Bank.
In front of the Chase Bank. See, well, folks, and I'll tell you, you can't trust a lot of these people because they wouldn't be working on the street corner if they were legitimate. Instead, they would be in the middle of the parking lot working out of the trunk of their car like everybody else. But fine art is a great way to make money. You know, that stuff does. When did you hear about a guy losing all his money because his Rembrandt and his Van Gogh and his Monet and his Picasso just all became worthless? You don't hear about that. And the folks at Masterworks realize that maybe you're not up to buying the whole Van Gogh or the whole Rembrandt. You want just a share of it, because that way, when we sell this thing to some multi-billionaire from another country, you're going to be able to cash in, and you can get up to $200 in free shares through that link that I was talking about that we're going to tell you. That way you can take an extra vacation, pay off a loan, pay an income tax, have another child, whatever you do that costs money. Those kids are expensive, right?
Well, there's a tax deduction.
Well, you got that going for you. But nevertheless, Masterworks has been delivering amazing results, even when the traditional investments have been suffering all this worldwide chaos with the financial markets around the world. You don't have to worry about that. They had an exit at Masterworks. Now, that's what they call a sale when you get out of something, right? We got out of it. 21.5% net return. That means, according to the mathematics that they're showing me, if you'd put in $10,000, you'd get $12,000 out. Now, that's an extra $2,000. Just like that. See?
See what?
Well, you can make $2,000.
Like that? Or are you snapping
Just
or clapping?
like that.
What are you doing?
I'm snapping. 6 out of the 7 exits so far gave investors more than 20% net returns, because Masterworks has given you access to the same things that millionaires and billionaires invest in without you having to be a billionaire yourself or even a measly old millionaire. So, when you sign up with our special code to learn all of this secret information that is kept quiet from the public and is only imparted to those of us in the know, when you sign up with a special code, you're going to find out how to get up to $200 of free shares in Masterworks. Go to masterworks.art/Jim. Masterworks.art/Jim. Learn about the free shares. Learn about your chance to buy the ward off the nose of the Mona Lisa, and you can also see important Regulation A disclosures, whatever they may be, I've never read them, at masterworks.com/CD. By the way, net returns refers to the annualized rate of return net of all fees and costs calculated from the closing date to the sale date. IRR may not be indicative of paintings not yet sold. Past performance is not indicative of future results.